Hello, welcome back to my channel. And today I'm just going to do some studying. I have with me a question bank of a subject that I study, which is political science, and I'm just going to do perhaps an inaudible whisper of what I'm going to study, and hopefully you will get some ASMR out of it. I don't know, let's see. Let me just adjust it like this, and just going to study some questions. Write an essay on the early civilization characteristics of the East Asian region. The complex and powerful state, dynasties, and civilizations that emerged in East Asia were strongly influenced by the environment in which they prospered. There is little arable land for agriculture in the West, so the smallish population that have been confined to the oasis settlement or have lived as pastoral nomads on the steppes. This led to Chinese civilization emerging in the more arable east, north and south. Isolated by its own wild west, China was cut off from the rest of the Eurasia and from competing agrarian civilization. Even today, these formidable topographical barriers and the vast distance necessary to cross western China after China's relationship with its western neighbors. Yet, these barriers have their advantage too. Chinese government from the earliest dynasty have been forced to focus on the internal cultural and ethnic integration rather than on external expansion. Although the mountains and deserts of the West limited contact between earlier imperial dynasties and the Afro-Eurasian civilization for thousands of years, they were eventually breached by traders moving along the Silk Road, the first connection between China and the rest of Afro-Eurasia. It was Silk Roads that allowed many of the lands and the technological inventions of the East Asian civilization, such as paper, printing, gunpowder, to reach the West, where the impact was profound. About midway through its course, the river takes a series of sharp turns to the so-called Great Bend before resuming in its path. This bend was perceived as a frontier, the very edge of civilized world beyond which they led endless and dangerous steppes, where one entered the realm of the barbarians, militarized pastoral nomads with Yongu and Mongols, China's most formidable enemies. The Huang He is also known as China's sorrow because of the misery its devastating floods have caused. The earliest cities, states, and civilizations of the East Asia all appeared along the Huang He. The Xia, Shang, Shao, Qin, Kang, and Tang dynasties were all centered there. So for millennia, for some of the largest population in the world lived within the Yellow River system and faced the potential of regular flood devastation. Emperors and court officials tried numerous schemes to control these floods, but with little success. The societies that emerged in Korea and Japan reflected their participation in the East Asian regional identity that revolved around China. We can talk about the existence of the Eastern Hemisphere cultural zone, but the beginning of the era of agrarian civilization, just as we speak about the East Asian region as a semi-unified cultural and economic identity today. But Koreans and Japanese civilization never became carbon copies of China. Write an essay on China under Japanese subjugation, Chapter 1, Question 5. Now let's open Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the page 1, the question number 5. Let's open the question number 5 and question number 5. I'm sorry, it looks all messed up because I've made some notes in here so that it would be easier for me to revise and learn all of these things. So let's continue. Discuss China under Japanese subjugation. Few Chinese had any illusions about Japanese design on China. Hungry for raw materials and pressed by a growing population, Japan initiated the seizure of Manchuria in September 1931 and established ex-Qing Emperor Puyi as the head of the puppet regime of Manchukuo in 1932. The loss of Manchuria and its vast potential for industrial development and war industries was a blow to the nationalist economy. The League of Nations, established at the end of World War I, was unable to act in the face of Chinese defiance. The Japanese began to push from south of the Great Wall into the northern China and into coastal provinces. China's fury against Japan was predictable, but anger was also directed against the Kuomintang government, which at the time was more preoccupied with anti-communist extermination campaigns than with resisting the Japanese invaders. The importance of external unity before external danger was forcefully brought home in December 1936, when nationalist troops who had been ousted from Manchuria by Japanese mutinied at Xi'an. The mutineer forcibly detained Chiang Kai-shek for several days until he agreed to cease hostilities against the communist force. Northwest China and to assign communist unit and combat duties in designated anti-Japanese front areas. The Chinese resistance stiffened after July 7, 1937, when a clash occurred between the Chinese and the Japanese troops outside Beijing, renamed Baiping, near the Marco Polo Bridge. The skirmishes not only marked the beginning of the open, though undeclared war between China and Japan, but also hastened from an announcement of Second Kuomintang CCP United Front against Japan. The collaboration took place with salutary effect for the Belgrade CCP. The distress between the two parties, however, was scarcely veiled. The uneasy alliance began to break down after 1938, despite Japan's steady territorial gain in northern China, the coastal region, and the Red Changshan Valley in central China. After 1940, conflicts between the nationalists and the communists became more and more apparent and frequent in the areas not under Japanese control. The communists expanded their influence wherever opportunities presented themselves through mass organization, administrative reforms, and the land and tax reform measures favoring the peasants, while the nationalists attempted to neutralize the spread of communist influence. At Yan and elsewhere in the liberated areas, Mao was able to adapt Marxism and Leninism to Chinese conditions. He taught party cadres to lead masses by living and working with them, eating their food, thinking their thoughts. The Red Army fostered an image of conducting guerrilla warfare in defense of the people. Communist troops adapted to changing wartime conditions and became a seasoned fighting force. Mao also began preparing for the establishment of a new China. In 1940, he outlined the program to the Chinese communists for an eventual seizure of power. His teaching became the central tenet of the CCP doctrine that became the formalized as Mao Zedong thought. With skillful organization and propaganda work, the communists increased party membership from 100,000 in 1937 to 1.2 million in 1945. In 1945, China emerged from the war nominally a great military power, but actually a nation economically prostrate and on the verge of an all-out civil war. The economy deteriorated, sapped by the military demands of the foreign war and internal strife, by spiraling inflation and nationalist profiteering. Speculations and hoarding. The starvation came in the wake of the war, and millions were rendered homeless by floods and unsettling conditions in many parts of the country. The situation was further complicated by an allied agreement at the Yalta Conference in February 1945 that brought Soviet troops into Manchuria to hasten the termination of the wars against the Japanese. Although the Chinese had not been presented at Yalta, they had been consulted. They had agreed to have the Soviets enter the war in the belief the Soviet Union would deal only the nationalist government. After the war, the Soviet Union, as the part of the Yalta's agreement following a Soviet sphere of the influence in Manchuria, examine the objective achievement and the problem of association of Southeast Asian nation ASEAN. Refer to December 2013 question 4. Okay. December 2013 question 4. June 2013. December 2013 question 4. Okay, there we go. Evaluate the need and achievement of ASEAN. Need of ASEAN. Our people, our future together. This is the theme chosen by Bruni Darussalam for his chairmanship of Association of Southeast Asian Nations, also known as ASEAN, for the ASEAN Summit of April 24-25, 2013, in which President Benigno Aquino attended. The Southeast Asia, including Philippines, truly and greatly depended upon their ability to work together for the common good. Fundamental needs to be together are as follows. Regional identity. First, nations need peaceful neighborhood to grow economically, socially, culturally and politically. Just look at the countries at war with their neighbors and it would be obvious how armed conflict, armed race, insecurity and the social disorder pull country from the progress. As in most human relations, there will always be tension, conflict and difference among nations. What is important is to develop predisposition to peaceful means of settling disputes. It is fortunate that no one among the 10 members of ASEAN has hegemonic ambition, including Indonesia, the biggest member with the land area and population approximately the same as Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand and Vietnam combined. Secondly, communities have the power to shape and represent collective identities and interests, help nations find common solution to problems, prescribe expectation for behavior, and even define common security threats. Positive interaction and friendship could direct our strength and resources to community building rather than permanent power struggle. Economic community. Third, globalization requires certain economies of scale to be attractive or competitive in terms of production, scale and investment. Asia need to continue working toward becoming an effective single market and production base. The global economic interdependence shares not only benefits but also risks. Asian economic interest ministers note these as such. The current contractions of external demand caused by debt crisis, fiscal problem in somehow developed economies, tighter global financial condition, higher prices and volatile capital flows. Their economic security depends on how deep we can integrate our individual economies and achieve greater macroeconomic and political coordination for the purpose of maintaining economic stability. The ASEAN Economic Community Blueprint commits all members to achieve a considerable degree of integration by 2050. People-centered ASEAN. As a function of different sizes, capabilities, and competing industries, regional economic integration could be associated with dislocation and difficulty among micro, small, and medium enterprises. It is important that these legitimate concerns are migrated and creating enabling environment for them to overcome, adapt to change. The people of Southeast Asia will support regional integration effort when they see the benefit to them. We must therefore build a region where there is equitable economic development. More open economies should create more opportunities that would narrow the current development gap among nations and people. Creation of more opportunities for work, travel, business and study would be an important vehicle for great people-to-people interaction and understanding. These are definitely more sustainable endeavors than junket travels. Common values. Finally, regional integration should be valued based in fact. Communities based on a set of common values are more lasting. They do not necessarily depend on reciprocity. They are more predictable and reliable. Members feel greater sense of belonging and identity when they share core values. Rule of law, democracy, respect for human rights, and private property should be among them. Thus, while it is important to remind Southeast Asians that their destiny is interweaving, we must do everything possible to make sure that the future is bright and everyone benefits from it. objective. The ASEAN Declaration states that aims and purposes to association are, first, to accelerate the economic growth, social progress, cultural development in the region through the joint endeavors in the spirit of equality and partnership in order to strengthen the foundation of a prosperous and peaceful community of Southeast Asian nations. Second, to promote regional peace and stability through abiding respect for justice and the rule of law in the relationship among countries in the region and adherence to the principle of the United Nations Charter 1995. The head of ASEAN of State and Development reaffirmed that cooperative peace and shared prosperity shall be the fundamental goal of ASEAN. The problem of ASEAN. The core problem facing the Association of Southeast Asian Nations is the relationship of national to regional interest. Competing and cooperations are two contrasting terms in ASEAN that cannot be submerged but must be recognized as fact of international life in Southeast Asia. They set definite limit to as what can be realistically achieved in regional development. Over the last decade or so, the member of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, such as Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore and Thailand have been engulfed in a tidal wave of economic, political and social change. As a consequence, the government of Asian religion have had to face a number of new policy challenges and have to reassess their approach to many problems. Southeast Asia confronted several other issues. The majority of Asian countries argue for a UN solution to the Iraq problem, with the exception of Philippines, the strongest US supporter in the area, and Singapore, Myanmar, Laos and Vietnam opposed the interventionist policies, and Malaysia criticized the actions of the United States and the West in Iraq. However, no Asian state enjoyed great bilateral relationship with others. For example, there are no extradition treaties amongst members. ASEAN was also weakened by an overemphasis on consultation and consensus. It avoided ownership of controversial issues. Consensus. In short, there was little if any leadership to issue that might affect its political standing. I'm going to do maybe one last question, or let's see. Let's do something small this time. Let's do these two. The US bases in Philippines. Under the agreement of 14 March 1947, the Philippines granted bases in the US for a period of 99 years. The bases became an increasingly important source of income and employment for Philippines. However, as the time passed, it sought to reopen several issues relating to the agreement. The three US bases were Clark Air Base, the Sangley Air Base, and the Subic Naval Base. In September 1971, the Sangley Point Naval Base was turned over to Philippines, in which had requested its return. Large section of Filipino youth were becoming critical of the exploitative aspect of the US-Philippine relationship. The continued existence of the US military was considered to be a serious erosion of Philippine sovereignty. The base treaty expired in 1991, and the United States withdrew its troops from Philippines by December end 1992. Sun Yat-sen was a Chinese physician, writer, philosopher, calligrapher, and revolutionary, the first president and the founding father of the Republic of China. As the foremost pioneer of the Republic of China, Sun is referred to as the father of the nation. In the Republic of China, Hong Kong, Macau, and forerunner of democratic revolution in People's Republic of China, Sun played an instrumental role in overthrow of the Qing dynasty during the years leading up to the Xinhai Revolution. He was appointed to serve as the provisional president of the Republic of China when it was founded in 1912. He later co-founded the Nationalist Party of China, serving as its first leader. Sun was a united figure in post-imperial China, and he remained unique among the 20th century Chinese politicians for being widely revered amongst the people from both sides of Taiwan Strait. Well guys, this is going to be enough for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any suggestions, then please do give me so. I will see you next time.